Good afternoon. I would like to just briefly say that together with the presidency of the G5 and the European Union, we convened a meeting of member states to take stock of the progress that have been already made in the operationalization of a G5 joint force. But at the same time to highlight that more needs to be done, and that after the success of the Brussels conference, where significant amounts of resources were pledged to support the G5 joint force, it is now important that this pledge should be disbursed and made available to the G5 as quickly as possible, so that the momentum can continue and the G5 force can continue in the process of beefing up its capacity. More specifically, in the case of the UN support to G5 Sahel, and particularly MINUSMA's support to the force as mandated by the Security Council, we highlighted the fact that we are now ready to start this support. We have made the requested and the required preparation to that effect, but at the same time we now need the resources to operationalize this support. We are very grateful to the European Union for its support, and thanks to that support we will be able to begin engaging some funds and providing G5 force with some support in the area of logistical support. But at the same time, we need more financial resources to be able to engage in the kind of support that requires more predictable funding, particularly when it comes to building the camps for the G5 force, the 6 camps that are to be built in Mali. So our message was there is a momentum. The G5 has made a lot of progress towards operationalizing the force. More needs to be done. And more needs to be done, particularly when it comes to the UN support and MINUSMA's support to G5 force. And we appeal on member states to make good on their pledges and to make sure that resources will be made available to us and to the G5 forces as soon as possible.
Merci bien. Je voudrais donc, à la suite de ce qu'a dit le secrétaire général adjoint, exprimer notre soutien et notre gratitude à l'ensemble des États membres, particulièrement à ceux qui ont fait des annonces de contribution lors de la conférence de Bruxelles. Nous avons fait le point de la situation par rapport à l'état de déploiement de la force du G5 Sahel. Nous avons d'autre part salué le travail remarquable qui a été fait par les équipes du secrétariat général, que ce soit au niveau ici du quartier général et au niveau de la MINUSMA pour soutenir la force. Comme l'a dit le secrétaire général adjoint, il s'agit maintenant de faire en sorte que les fonds promis soient déboursés parce que, comme vous le savez, la situation sécuritaire au Sahel ne fait que se dégrader, d'où la nécessité pour la force de commencer ses opérations militaires. Nous avons reçu en ce sens des promesses fermes de beaucoup de pays contributeurs que dans les jours, les semaines à venir, les fonds promis seront mis à la disposition aussi bien des Nations Unies, de l'Union européenne et du fonds fiduciaire de la MINUSMA, du G5 Sahel pour que nous puissions commencer les opérations. Je vous remercie.
Yes, thank you very much. It's an honor for the European Union to be working with the United Nations in support of the G5, working with the African Union as well. We're mobilizing all the instruments we have in this support. We're using our African Peace Facility as a path towards the financing of MINUSMA, to the direct financing of the African Peace of the G5 Sahel Joint Force. We're offering it also as a path for those that want to support the G5 Joint Force to use it as well. We're mobilizing coordination instruments within our military staff to help identify the gaps and needs, totally at the service of the G5, working with the Permanent Secretariat of the G5 in Nouakchott, working with General Dako, the operation commander of the force. European Union has already offered 100 million euros for the force. 10 million of those euros are being also given directly to MINUSMA to deliver services to the force. We are moving beyond, obviously, just support to the force and support of the G5. In the last 7 years, the European Union has invested more than 8 billion euros in support of G5 Sahel countries. And the challenges that are affecting security are necessarily have to be addressed with security means, but much broadly as well. It's also about development, it's about governance, and we're very much engaged with the G5 countries and with their leadership in moving this agenda forward. So it's a great pleasure to be here this afternoon, joining the United Nations, joining the G5 Sahel in something that we consider a joint endeavor in support of the G5 Sahel countries and their full ownership, obviously, of the process. Many thanks.
What will you use the 10 million euros for? Will you be buying any armored vehicles, or are you hoping any contributions of armored vehicles will be made to MINUSMA to prevent more deaths from IEDs? I understand you don't have any of those.
The kind of support that MINUSMA is mandated to deliver to the G5 Joint Force is of a logistical nature. It's about life support, ration, fuel. It's about support in building camps, which is something that requires more resources, as I say, more predictability, and hence the importance of having additional resources on top of the 10 millions of euro, for which we're very grateful. And the support by MINUSMA to the G5 force is also about medical evacuation and medevac, casevac. So these are the three areas where we will, as a result and as per the mandate of the Security Council, provide support to the G5 force. Of course, that will come in addition and to and in complement to the support brought by bilateral donors to the G5 force, which, among other things, will help G5 force acquire the kind of equipment that it needs. Now, let me tell you that on the other hand, and as far as MINUSMA is concerned, we are making every possible efforts to bridge the gap that we have in some critical equipments, and particularly armored vehicle personal carriers, in order to minimize the threat posed by explosive devices. But this is something that we are pursuing, as I say, parallel to the support that we bring to the G5 force.
One of the questions I was going to ask for concrete examples of how MINUSMA is supposed to help support the G5 Sahel counter-terrorism force. Can I ask you, Melissa Kent, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, can you, what would you say to a Canadian public or Canadian politicians who are worried that Canadian helicopters might be might be going in to fight terrorism in Mali? What would you do to allay fears there?
First of all, I would say that we highly value the contribution that Canada is providing to MINUSMA. MINUSMA is of critical importance not only to Mali but to the region, and in fact helping Mali and the region to return to stability and to face the challenges that it faces is very important for the world security, because the security challenges that this region is facing are impacting all of us, whatever the region, whatever the country. So it's a very important contribution, one that has to do with very critical assets that we need, and they will be very useful for MINUSMA to be better in improving in delivering its mandate. The mandate of MINUSMA is not about fighting terrorism. This is a mandate for the G5 force. This is a mandate of the French force Barkhane. MINUSMA is there to support the achievement of a political solution and to protect the population.
I have two more clarifications. Sorry, just a clarification that the technical agreement was signed in February based on 2391, but it's still not in effect. That's one. Well, actually, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
It's still not in effect?
Pardon me?
The technical agreement signed in February based on 2391 is still not in effect. You said that you, even though...
No, the technical agreement is in effect. We have the basis to start operationalizing support, implementing that support as soon as we have the funds and they're forthcoming. So I guess, within days or a few weeks maximum, we will start implementing that these actions.
Question pour Monsieur Lacroix, s'il vous plaît, sur la centrale. Juste une petite question sur la Centrafrique qui est un peu à part du sujet. Le président centrafricain hier a demandé un renforcement des casques bleus pour la Centrafrique. Est-ce que vous allez accéder à cette demande et est-ce que vous pouvez confirmer que la Russie a proposé de fournir des casques bleus pour ce pays?
Nous travaillons sur la base du mandat qui nous a été donné par le Conseil de sécurité pour le renforcement de la force, c'est-à-dire l'accroissement des effectifs militaires. Et d'ores et déjà, un certain nombre d'éléments sont déployés ou sont en cours de déploiement en République centrafricaine, notamment en provenance du Rwanda. Et nous travaillons par ailleurs avec un certain nombre d'autres pays que nous avons contactés pour fournir des troupes additionnelles afin de faire aboutir la totalité de ce renforcement, c'est-à-dire 900 hommes supplémentaires pour la MINUSCA. L'ambassadeur Wefi.
We have a question for Mr. Lacroix too. Ambassador Wafi, the attack in Ouagadougou in Burkina Faso in March, how would the development of the force since then, what could have been, how would it address these type of events that took place in Burkina Faso in March? And for Mr. Lacroix, I'm sorry to ask you, but in South Sudan, there's recently been allegations of either child rape or now recharacterized as child sexual assault. And I'm just wondering, what is the definition that DPKO uses, and what is DPKO? It seems like there are two recent events there. What's happening with the mission, and what is your office doing to address these issues? Thank you.
Yes, with regard to the attack in Ouagadougou, this is a clear indication that these terrorist forces are becoming more and more bold, and the threat posed by these terrorists are really a major concern for the region, not only for Burkina Faso, but for all the neighboring countries. And this is it stressed the need to deploy this force because, MINUSMA is not designed, is not mandated, is not equipped to fight with terrorism. And this is why the 5 countries of Sahel have deployed this joint force to meet the security needs, and to, at some point, to enable MINUSMA to implement his mandated tasks.
Let me just answer to that question very briefly. I would like to say, first of all, we were aware of these allegations and we're taking them very seriously. We're in touch with the particular troop contributing countries. And let me tell you, just to illustrate what I've just said. In the case of South Sudan, we had recent cases, allegations regarding police units, 40 individuals, all of them have been removed from active service, and we're very actively pursuing these cases with the police contributing countries. So let me assure you that we're completely determined to go to the bottom of all this and make sure that those responsible will be found, will be held accountable. Thank you.
One more question about the technical agreement.
Do you have no armored vehicles for MINUSMA still?
Bravo.